what you want. Unbossed, speak what you want. Unbossed. And we're up first. Unapologetically great. Unapologetically great. Unapologetically great. And we're up first. Yes, ladies. That's dope. Yes, ladies. That's dope. Yes, ladies. That's dope. And we're up first. It's time for the ladies. It's the ladies first Chit-Chat crew. Time for the ladies. It's the ladies first Chit-Chat crew. One time for the ladies in the house. Two time make the people scream and shout. Lachelle, Chandra, Crystal with Nikki on boss and Nikki. And we're up first.
What you say? What you say?
No, yes. What you got on? What you over there?
Olive green. Olive green.
Olive green.
Synchronicity of us all.
I know. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Ladies First Chit-Chat crew, where we honor the voice of the everyday woman. Happy Holy Weekend. Happy Easter weekend.
Yes, for
Bye.
sure.
And
You're
to
muted, Chandra.
Shani, you mute.
Happy Holy Weekend.
I hope happy Holy Weekend.
We'll praise the Lord, somebody.
Lord safe. Hey y'all, how y'all doing?
Hey.
Y'all look beautiful.
Morning.
We got on. We chose the color today. We chose our own color today.
That's right.
Whatever we were feeling in the mix.
Yes.
Right. We in our we are we coloring inside the lines or outside the lines today?
Outside.
Oh, we coloring outside today. I'm gonna throw this to everyone. Crystal, what made you put on that beautiful, vibrant yellow? Loving your hair. You look real cute.
Yeah, that yellow is beautiful.
Yellow is popping, honey. Let me bring you a little closer.
Mm-hmm.
That hair.
Y'all so sweet.
What made you color outside the line and put on the yellow today?
Yellow brings me joy. That's it, and that's all.
You bring
Oh, you look beautiful.
Oh,
your hair is popping.
I
Yeah,
just
you look really
did my
pretty.
hair this morning.
Oh, you did? Wow.
So I was like, yeah, we're gonna do some color today.
Ironically, when I met Crystal years ago, that's what her hair looked like.
I had locks for 10 years.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Shelly, what made you put on? Lachelle always called this the Lachelle jacket.
It is. I love this.
I always call it the Lachelle throw. I love it.
Honey. It just flail it around. I put this on because I love it. It's comfortable, but it has a mix of a few of my favorite colors: royal blue, yellow, olive green. So I threw it on, and look at the living room. You can tell this is like sort of my palette.
I was so inspired by the Lachelle throw. I remember you had it on when all of you all met each other for the first time on the way to Nick. And let me tell you why I remembered, because the next Monday I was like, I want a Lachelle throw. I was a Lachelle throw with some colors.
I didn't know that. I will keep my eye out and get you some.
I did, and I didn't see one that I really wanted, So yeah,
you
didn't know that.
I didn't, but now I do, and it is locked in.
Yeah. Hi, Nikki on Boss. I love you.
Yeah.
What made you color outside the lines and choose your color this morning?
Honestly, I didn't have a reason.
That is also being outside the lines.
yeah, I just felt I wanted to be comfortable. This felt warm and sexy, and
Yes, warm
this
and
is
sexy.
my day today.
Yes, my day, warm and sexy with the blonde straight
I
hair.
was because his hair is sexy, honey.
Everything. It is everything.
Everything. Chandra. I was looking at some old videos the other day. Chandra. Chandra. What made you put on your beautiful green? What is that? Forest green?
This is forest, all a deep olive, a deep olive. You know what I'm saying? Like this is one of my favorite colors. Can you guys see?
We see it. We see it, honey.
This is one of my favorite colors. It brings out the green in my eyes.
It does.
It does.
That's why I always tend to gravitate to the green brown colors because it does accentuate my eye color.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite color is actually red.
You look great in it.
You do look great. Look great.
There. This is my palette, as Lachelle said. This is my
Palette.
What about you, Nick?
Yeah, I was say, what about you, Get?
Is that lip and color?
Well, y'all know at first I was thinking about wearing yellow. Then I was gonna wear orange. And then I was blessed with a brand new Lululemon jacket from my Lululemon fam.
Yes.
I went, let me put this plum on.
It looks so good.
I like, and it feels good.
And you had the lip to go with it. Like, talk about ready.
I put a little lip liner on it just to give it a little more of a plum.
Yes, a plum. A plum.
Plum.
It's I saw it. I was gonna put on the orange, and then I saw this sitting there, and I said, you know what? Let me thank the Lord for the Lululemon blessing me
There
with
you
it.
I need to put my order in.
This morning. Exactly.
I like it.
Well, y'all, today our show topic: color inside the lines. Coloring inside the lines, does that make you an artist? Coloring inside the line, does that make you an artist? Before we get into that, I just want to put our little picture up there. I was really excited about my artistry.
You did so good.
It looks
You did it every week.
Inside the lines, does that make you an artist? Growing up, we were taught in school to color inside the lines when coloring in our coloring books or worksheets. I remember it so vividly. If you colored outside the lines, it was frowned upon. Why? Is it because coloring inside the lines is the way it's supposed to be done? Is it because those are the rules? Is it because that's what makes it correct? Is that what makes you an artist? Well, what happens when you decide to color outside the lines? Let's talk about it. Let's chat about it. I color outside the lines all the time. I am a color out of the side of the liner girl. I've always been out the line in my own box, everything. And this is a conversation that we started talking about on Thursday morning, like we always do. And we really got into it. We started talking about you being in your own box. How does that relate to coloring inside out the lines? Let's talk about it, y'all. What's the difference? Those of us that, because I do color inside the lines sometimes, that are real big on following the rules and color inside the lines and not stepping out. What does that mean? Let's talk about it.
It's limiting.
Exactly.
You're limiting yourself. I find that I'm both, but I color outside of the lines when I'm being bold, when it's time to take action, when I have to do something, I need to make something happen. But those that color outside the lines on a regular might be more like a Lachelle, right? You're living your dream, right? You're not conforming to the way in which others say you need to do things, going after a path that people think you should be going after. You're doing things more based on how you feel and what you want. And that is definitely more satisfying.
It is.
It's funny. I get a visual, and I don't, I can remember being having, my daughter being little and other little ones around me, and I can remember when you're teaching them how to color. You're like, now stay in the lines, stay in the lines. And that's pretty much how life is, and we start teaching our kids from a really young age. But what's really interesting over the years, and I can't say when I started to change, I came across little kids that were coloring outside of the lines, and I'd go, wow, what creativity. Something in me changed in terms of how I responded to it. But definitely there are people who look at that and they're like, oh my God, this child.
I remember Nick being
That's an actual scientific test that they give kids.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
I remember being a little girl and had my little coloring book, and I was coloring inside the lines, and it was kind of therapeutic for me, and I would outline it. And I remember one day my mom and them went out the room, and I remember taking a red, or I had the 64 color, like a brick red coloring, and I did like this.
Did you just give the color number?
No, the 64 crayons.
Oh, box. I'm like, oh, you really are prepared.
Number 82.
Yeah. The brick red.
The brick red number 64.
I remember it was a brick red. I remember like it was yesterday. And they
Mm-hmm.
all walked out the room, and I was like this. And I just kept coloring and just all out the lines and coming back. And I remember my Aunt Ruth walked in. She was like, "You okay?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "You okay?" Because I was like, she goes, "You okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm good." I remember she looked at it and went, "Okay." And I remember being like, "Oh, I thought
that
I was
probably
going to get
in trouble."
Yeah, for some reason.
Like, what are you doing that for?
Yeah, exactly. She did ask me if I was okay, because I think mainly because I was like this, but it was me going, I don't want to stay inside the lines today. I'm just going to go like this. And ironically, that's how my life has been.
You know what's so funny, Nikki? I'm thinking about how that influenced you. That simple moment when she looked at it, she thought maybe something's wrong. She asked if you were okay. You said you were, and then she said, okay. And she went on about her business, right? That was like a real confirmation to just be you.
Yeah.
Right. And again, she could have had a reaction similar to what Nikki said. She was like, some people look at that and go like, what's wrong with this kid? Right. Or this kid is like, what is the deal here? So, I mean, that's something that's simple as saying color inside the lines that we say to kids. And as simple as letting you color outside the lines and just being like, okay. That can literally send you in a very different direction, that you have to go through all of this stuff in life to like get back to the kid who's like coloring outside the line and just feeling good about it.
Yeah. Well, I've definitely, I agree, Michelle. I remember clearly, and I wasn't thinking about this when we were having a conversation. I remember wanting to do the right thing. I wanted to color inside that. I wanted my picture to look like it's supposed to look. I wanted to, sit with my hands like this so that they would say I'm doing a good job. I wanted to, my hip hop name would be the Notorious Rule Follower, right? I'm following the rules. And then I also remember making a flower or something outside of the lines, but it was mine. So I did yours and I'm doing mine. I remember that. I remember feeling like, look at where it goes, right? I remember being in high school and everybody had these jeans with this top and I wanted these jeans with this top. I know people that were like, I don't want to wear that. I want to wear what I want to wear. And I was like, nope, I want the backpack that everybody has. And I want the, sorry, it wasn't backpack, it was book bag. We had book bags. A book bag. I wanted the earrings that everybody had. I wanted it to have my little flip, but I liked being, kind of in the realm of societal norms, right? So then that is a very different place from people. Like when we showed our pictures, I think we showed pictures one time, and Shelly, you were very like, artsy looking. And, Nikki might have been like athletic looking. And I probably looked very much like what was happening at the time, what we were all hearing. See what I'm saying? Yeah. Like I want to be because this, I'm just unpacking this as as I go, but I feel like I love the way people describe, no shade, but it's like, I was doing this. It's like, I was probably doing what kids my age were doing. And I wasn't a cliff jumper like Nikki. I wasn't bucking against my mother because she wasn't having it. You know what I mean? Like, I was just doing what I was supposed to do. Now that goes left on you. Well, before I go left, now societal norms. Look on LinkedIn. What kind of jobs do they have? Somebody gets a job like you want, like everybody is following, like, this is the way you're supposed to do it. And if you fall outside of that, I don't want to go as far as to say it's frowned upon, but it's definitely, you
can go that far.
It's
frowned upon.
But sometimes people, it gives them courage to do the same, but what I feel like, it goes left when maybe you had a career similar to mine where you've been at the same place a really long time and you don't have the cliff jumper experiences, or you have, been in this relationship a really long time, or you raising your kid the way you was like all of those things, it goes left because it's like, I'm not familiar with asking. I'm just speaking to myself.
Yeah.
I'm not really thinking like, should I, I'm almost asking permission. That's not literal, but it feels like that. Like I'm not supposed to color outside of the line. So why would I do that?
Right.
Right.
It's interesting what you said in the beginning when you were saying, like, I was the one with my hands like this. I was the one who was pretty much dressing like the way everyone was doing at the time. But you said, I wanted to do that. Right. Which is like your artistry, because you weren't dressing like everyone else because that's how everyone else was dressing. You were like, this is how we do it. I'm down with the crew, right? Mm-hmm. Which is very different than being like, well, I'm going to not buck against my mom because my grandma said I'm not supposed to. You were like, I don't want to buck against my mom, right? And so it sounds like what you described is like you were actually coloring outside the lines by doing what you wanted to do, right?
It's actually like someone says, however, we can color inside. Oh, I lost it. However, we can color inside the line with our own colors.
That's exactly what you were describing.
Doing your own colors. You had your stacks, but you wanted your stacks because I wanted mine too.
Exactly.
You actually made me look at myself a little bit differently. I think, it's funny how you can color inside the lines in certain areas of your life and others not. It's not so black and white, when I think of my clothing style or even my hairstyles, even when I was in college, I mean, things I used to do, I might have known what was in style or trending or whatever, but I always have my twist to it, but I think the things that we're taught, like career-wise, that really was a heavy influence on me in terms of how you showed up and what you had to do. That's where I'm really tight, or used to be very tight more in the lines. And I think I shared that with you. I remember I had a boss, she showed up one day, she had no stockings on, she had on a really fitted suit, and she had big hair, and her nails were done, and she had on her jewelry. And I just looked at her, and I was working in a heavily male-dominated environment. And yes, she got the looks and stuff like that. But once they realized that she also had something to offer, it didn't even matter. And that was the first time that I remember my eyes being open to embracing, myself as a woman and showing up, the way I wanted to with my own personality. But definitely in certain areas of your life, you're taught that this is the way you need to do it. And that really limits you in how you show up.
Rebecca said coloring inside the lines is safe. And at the end, everyone recognized what's it supposed to be. For me, it was always about doing what's safe and wanting to keep the judgy eyes away. But now at this stage of my life, I've been loving coloring whatever the heck I want.
I
That's
love that.
Funny is that it's safe until it's not.
I know, right? We think it's safety, right? This is such a good point. I mean, most people choose what feels safe, but usually there's always a point on that path that it's not safe for you because it's not aligned with what you really are or what you really want to be doing. So you end up going to a place that feels uncomfortable or not safe.
So true.
Well, listen, the rebel of the group, I ain't never drawn in the lines a day in my life. From birth, ask my mama. So I think it's hard for me to even teach that to my kid. And this is my children. The other one, she a little off the wall herself. But, I feel like this is part of the reason we were having this conversation, because I was having a moment with my oldest, and it's like I don't want to reprimand her because of societal norms. I want her to understand where they're coming from, but still have her opinion and definitive feelings about what's right to her and what's not, and what she'll stand for and what she will or will not stand for. And that's at 4. My daughter, it's interesting because everybody be like, my kid is so whatever, my kid is so smart, my kid is so this and that. No, my kid is really like been here before. And even in like her writing and her artistry, like actual artistry, like drawing and stuff like that, she's very advanced. And I found myself doing an exercise with her of seeing like a coloring book picture that's black and white, and then you have to color it, her coloring it inside the lines, and then me saying like, okay, now look at this picture and draw it with your own free hand and see how it looks and how incredibly different it is. But what she sees with her eyes from that and drawing it for herself is something totally different. And I always, even before we were having this conversation, that's something that I have been teaching her, like, what you just did is beautiful and it's yours and it's what you see and how you comprehend whatever was happening in that moment. So I think, my parents definitely had a hard time with me because I was I'm getting it now from my kid. So I do understand, like, sorry, mommy. So sorry. but it's just one of those things, like, trying to be of the world, but be in the world, but not of the world is the saying. It's like, I want to have my own lane, my own box that I've created for myself, and be proud to walk in it and stand in it and share it with other people without criticism or backlash, or all these things. And that's why, people have such a hard time, walking in their authentic truths because of those things, like what everyone else is saying. But if every person just walked in their own cuss words,
wonderful world it would be.
It would be a wonderful world. And I almost think that having the people, I love what you said, Shani, like have it being in if everybody walked in their own authentic self and their own box, and not worry about the people saying what they need to say. But it's almost like the people saying what they're gonna say supports us in learning even more about ourselves and learning and pushing us even more to I'm gonna discover what my box looks like, or discover coloring out the lines. Crystal and Lachelle got me back listening to Abraham Hicks, and she was always talking about the what people say, and in the judgy eye, look at it as a great thing instead of looking at it as dagger to my heart because you get to learn more about yourself.
Contrast.
Yeah, yeah.
Does create
Mm-hmm.
an opportunity for you to see what you do want, because it shows you what you want, right? And I think that is important. Shelly, come on. I just thought about that. There's the contrast. We fight against things that feel like it's feeling like this, but what it's doing is really showing you
what you like and what you don't like.
What you don't like. And it's like, why do I lean in further to what I don't like? You know, and to your point, and thank you, Shelly, for saying this way. Lachelle. because I wanted to color inside the lines, right? So then instead of that helps me, because we can also, you know, critique ourselves in a way that's not accurate. And so I remember wanting to do that, right? I remember wanting to then take my brick red. I love, that was my favorite. That brick red was fire in that box. Listen, but then creating my own. I used to put, flowers, and I doodle in flowers now, right? So I think that helps me to see myself, because then the societal norm is, if you are doing this now, societal norms with everything being so more diverse, outwardly diverse than it was,
Yes, we were younger.
And it makes me feel like, okay, this is what I want. I enjoy the line, that line, and I enjoy creating my own. And then it makes me feel like my reference to work, it's like, I really love the company I work for.
Yeah.
I don't hate it, and as the evolution happens, as it should, you start saying, wow, I'm feeling contrast in certain areas. What are those areas? And then how do I shift to this other thing? Versus like, I've been here so long, the perspective is not accurate. So you just in that statement, you helped me to see that. So thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. I was thinking about when I was younger, I did all the wrong things, right? I talked, I got thrown out of some.
I love that story. I love that, by the way.
Which one? The State of Harlem story, when they threw me out of there? I mean, I've been thrown out of everywhere just for talking, but that's what I do, right, for a living. But I don't know, when I was younger, I can't recall that I was like consciously, I don't think I was consciously like, I'm going that way. I was just like, oh, what's over here? And I would just go. But the interesting thing, right? So I had my mom and I had my father, and my father would always respond similar to how your aunt responded, Nikki, when she saw you, and she just like, you okay? And you said you were, and she was like, she just let you ride, right? That was my dad. My mom was like, you outside the lines, you in trouble, right? You talk, you did, what line did you step out of? I'm gonna beat you back over the other line, okay? So, but the thing I recognize is that my mother's response to me being outside of the lines, which I was quite frequently, was that I was in trouble for it, right? She was mad at me. I would get on punishment, or I would not be able to watch my TV show, or I'd get a spanking if it was really something that she found to be outrageous, right? Mind you, I never got really in trouble a day in my life. But for her, there were these lines that she wanted her kids to be inside of, right? But I realized that I think as I moved into adulthood, being quote unquote outside the lines, just doing what I feel, my experience with my mom actually taught me that when you do what you feel, there may be negative consequences. And so I got accustomed to it. So I was less worried about the judgy eye or the statements of the people in the church or whatever, because my younger experience was like, you do what you want and you get in trouble, and you do what you want and you get in trouble, and you do what you want and you get in trouble. So I was like, oh, it's fine, right? Because I'm gonna do what I want and I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm gonna do what I want and they're not gonna like it. I'm gonna do. And so that experience, while if I look at it through one lens, like you were just talking about how you look at your job, I could be like, oh, that was rough. Like I just kept getting in trouble for being me. But when I look at it through the other lens, it like got me ready to be looked at crazy and be fine with just continuing to be me. You know what I mean? It was almost training because I'm like, actually, it was so customary. Like I was on punishment multiple times a week, y'all. Multiple. This wasn't like once a month. This was multiple times a week, punished lessons, the whole 9 yards. But what I'm saying is I had that so much. And I don't know what motivated me not to be like, let me straighten up and fly right. It's almost like I didn't know how to do it. So I just got accustomed to being looked at crazy. And so as I got older, I was like, they're going to look at me crazy because that's what happens when you do what you want to do. So it was fine for me. Does that make sense?
Or Lachelle, you say they looked at you crazy. I also believe too, you paved the way. You know what I mean?
For sure.
You paved the way. You paved
most of them crazy ones, if I turned around, they was like online behind me. Remember Forrest Gump when he started running alone?
Exactly.
And then eventually there was thousands of people behind him. Yeah, that happens.
It's like, you end up paving a way and other people look and say, oh, I can do that too. Like Nikki talking about the woman at her job showing up without, with her hair and everything. And we all know, those of y'all back home, Nikki on Boss always has a look. Y'all, you can't tell here, but she always has a look. But seeing that also enhanced you to say, you know what, let me keep my look going. And then Jada sees that and everybody else sees that and feels like that they can keep doing what they're doing.
Jada just shakes her head. I show up at her basketball games with my little fur thing on, and she's like, "Oh my God!" And her friends are like, "Your mom is so cute."
I want to read what Enid said. Enid said, "Hey, Mama E, I just flashed on a dark moment in my older daughter's life when her art teacher in elementary school embarrassed her by criticizing her outside the lines art project quite cruelly. It took years for my daughter to move past that experience and free herself." Wow.
Yeah, that's slight.
I've heard similar stories.
Yeah.
You know what? That makes me think of the actress Yaya DaCosta. Do you guys remember?
Yaya DaCosta, I remember her.
She, if you get a chance, Robin, what's today's show? Robin Roberts is doing a like
something
her
about a table, a series.
Talk show. Yeah, it's some type of like video podcast talk show situation. But anyway, Yaya was just on it, and she was talking about this type of topic because when she first came out, she was a model. That's when the word, she did acting before that, but she was
on Top Model
to us as a model.
Yeah. Okay.
But the way that Yaya was raised was completely non-Black traditional. It was like African traditions, like, her name is Yaya, like that, like, her real name, that's not a nickname, like her name, and she was, she used to do African rituals, and like, she had natural hair, and like, it was just a thing. Now, when was Top Model? Like
90s.
Yeah. Nobody looked like her. Nobody.
They were like, I remember on the show, that was the first thing that Tyra was like, you have to straighten your hair. Like, you cannot look like this or whatever. And on the thing with Robin, she was just talking about how it was a constant fight for her to conform into these boxes because she was trying to make it or whatever. And she was like, that's not how her mom and her father raised her. She was like, now people walking around talking about Ashe and like, all these things, stuff that was so like taboo back, just 15 years ago or 10 years ago. And, she was just like, it took everything in her to do the small, I say this to say that, because she said it took everything in her at that time to do really, really small things to keep her authenticity in what she was trying to do, because she wanted to be an actor and she wanted to break into that field. And so she felt like she had to do things to conform to break into those fields. But she was like, I still tried to keep a little bit of me, but make it present. No, you're not going to, you may straighten my hair, but then you're going to chrome roll it back so it can still be wavy. You know, like whatever could kind of like make her feel safe or comfortable. And so I was just like thinking about like, you know, even though, because some people are like, you know, well, I can't, I'm not strong enough to just like have my own voice or like stay in, not color outside the lines because of my job or the work that I do or whatever. But I was just, you know, loving what she was saying about just trying to hold on to like one thing of yours that is authentic to you in those spaces. And that one thing grows into being able to, you know, be wholeheartedly, authentically yourself in those spaces. Now, I mean, the shows from Top Model in 90 whatever to whatever this last show she was doing called like Free People or Them People or whatever it was called. Mm-hmm. Honey, she had Bantu knots and like her character on the show was a natural hair stylist, like, you know, like talking about the African roots of all the you know the way that people wore their hair from back then to now and all this kind of stuff. So it's just like, you know, that's what I was
no, but Chandra, you said hold on to that like one thing in those spaces. Like that is like so key, because the other reason why I really like this topic for us to talk about was, and you know, debate me on this, but I feel like younger people, younger families, they are not so conforming in terms of how they're raising their kids or how they're even approaching life or how they're interacting in work. So what I liked about this, and we've often talked about this, you being younger than all of us, you've challenged my thinking too, you know, in terms of being more bold in other areas, right? Just in the conversations we have. But I think what was important of a certain age, you know, to challenge our thinking, right? And to realize how we are forcing or we're allowing ourselves to operate in a very controlled space at times.
Mm-hmm. I think, Nick, one of the things that I have in my notes that we talked about on Thursday, I believe Lachelle said it, and I feel like it goes with what you're saying, but what you were saying about Yaya, the safest place to be is to know who you are. And 100%. Because she knew who she was, when they straightened her hair, she's like, okay, y'all want me to do this? Y'all will do this, but I know who I am, so I'm gonna do a little something, 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 something. You know, I even see that in you, Nikki. I remember, you know, yeah, you have this corporate job, whatever, but I know when I would come see you, you knew who you to me, this is how I see you. You knew who you know who you are. You would have your you know, your business casual look, but there was always a little spice. You know what I mean? There's y'all have to see her when I would go see her work. There was always a little spice, and to me, I see that as that knowing who you are. Chrissy, you talk about you wanted to be in the lines, but you had your own color, but nobody's bamboo earrings look like yours. You feel me? You feel what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Nobody's bamboo earrings look like yours. So it was you knowing who you are. And, you know, and then there's Lachelle, who I'm over here looking for a Lachelle rap. You know, I'm just saying that even though we're saying that there are, I think all of us at one point in time, yeah, of course, we wouldn't be where we are now if we weren't following some type of structure, some type of rule. But also within that, we were finding our own color. We are stepping outside that line to be in our own box, to do what it is we need to do. You know what I'm saying?
And I want to say something about the safety, right? Because it is the safest place to be is to know who you are. Because if you know who you are, any environment you're in, there is this anchoring that you feel. But for the purposes of safety, there's a lot of women who watch the show, and then there's a lot of Black women and people who watch the show. And if you think about those two categories, Black people, Black women, any woman, and then Black women, we societally were literally treated we were put in very unsafe positions as women in this country for centuries. We certainly know we were mistreated as Black folks when we got brought to this country, right? And so we, as people now living now, we have all been generation after generation working our way away from this very real experience that being who you are is not safe, right? Let's just take women in general. Right? Being who you were as a woman. I mean, we couldn't vote. You couldn't wear pants. Like this, all of this stuff, just because you were a woman. And so society was very intent on making sure that you being who you are was not safe. Being Black, being a Black woman, all of it. We've had to work our way away from that. And there were those who were like, doesn't matter if you're making it unsafe for me. I'm forging ahead. Like, see Madam C.J. Walker, for example, right? Black and woman, long ago, started a business, made a ton of money. She did all the things that women, period, and Black women and Black people would not do. And so that tips the scale a little bit, all the way to what Nikki just referenced, like younger people and younger families now. They're like, throw out all the rules.
Right.
So I think that for the people who are having this conversation with us, who are saying to themselves, especially people our age or older, who are saying like, why am I like that? Right? There's very real reasons. Real reasons that you may have unwillingly kept yourself inside the lines. And what this conversation is about is really alerting us to the fact that we don't have to do that anymore.
I love that. I'm sorry, Nikki. I just want to make a comment to Chandra because of how this conversation started. So Chandra, you're under us, not a generation, but you're like say 10 years under us, right? A little more than that. And then your daughter, who's 4, almost feels like she doesn't have any of this stuff that we're talking about. So do you mind sharing the story that happened to her this week? Do you mind sharing that story of how we started this conversation?
I'm like, which part? Because so much then happened.
Just the punch, but what she was told to do versus what
she has a voice. She wanted to use her voice.
Right. So basically, my daughter was at school and asked to sit down at lunch and like be conformed to just sitting at lunch, eating her food. Callie wanted to still get up and play with her friends and, do her thing and talk. And the teacher's like, Callie, please sit down and eat your food. And Callie's like, no, I want to play with I want to talk to this person over here. So just please, whatever. And so the teacher asked her like 3 or 4 times to sit down. And every time Callie got back up and was talking and kikiing and having a good time with her friends. So the teacher said on the 5th time, if you get up again, I'm going to take your food from you. And Callie said, here, take it. And proceeded to get up yet again and talk to her friend. And, the punishment in that moment was that she didn't get to have lunch, whatever, or get to finish her lunch because she was doing something against what was asked. Or my discrepancy with the whole thing is like, it's lunchtime. It's free. Like, why are we making these kids sit down with their legs crossed under the table, eating their food like they're in a military school or something like that, and not like enjoy? My daughter is very free. She wants to talk. She wants to laugh. She wants to know what you did last night. She wants to know what you're going to do tomorrow. She's chapter and verse like her auntie Chrissy. Okay. She wants to know. She wants to know it all. So when it came,
Allie's like, and then what happened?
Then what happened? And then she'd be like, and you should have said. She's definitely that kid. And when it was brought to my attention, I kind of was just like, well, what you want me to do? What's the issue, But the ultimate issue was that she didn't like what was being served to her for lunch. And so she was trying to,
do something else.
distract, right? And so the conversation that I was having with Callie was, if this is something that you don't like, that you dislike, then that's what you should say. You shouldn't make this huge scene about making it about something other when it is what it is. Me and my daughter talk just like this. Like, and he's 4, and I'd be like, "Do you understand what I'm saying?" And she'd be like, "Yes or no, I don't understand. Like, tell me again, say it differently." And she was like, "Yeah, I understand. I understood what you mean, because you're obviously in this setting. We put you in this setting, and we want you to be able to learn and have social moments and be around people, whatever. But because you are in this setting, we have to figure out a way that you're able to convey what it is that you really are trying to say, because they have norms and rules and things that you have to abide by in this setting.
Right.
That doesn't mean that you have to be militant and sit down and don't, if this is what you were served, you have to eat it and you have to do this, because that's not how we roll at home. And I'm not teaching you that, because this is, code switching is what it is. And we teach it at a very young age. You can be like this at home, but when you go in public, you better act like this. You can be like this here, but when you go over here, you have to act, conform to what they're doing over here. Now, I want my kids to be how they are at home, at school, at work, in the public, in the community. I want them to be the same way all the way. So that was the in a nutshell. Did I say the one you wanted me to say? Because I feel
like you did, but it comes down to, though, she has a voice,
a big
one, and she wasn't. The how is, how you're teaching her is really critical to it, but not like diminishing her voice, because but explaining, this is like in this setting, just like you said, but you can still say, Miss
whoever,
Miss Lynn, I don't like this.
I didn't like to eat. And
but that comes back to, like, in certain settings, there isn't that opportunity. People don't afford you that opportunity. I mean, honestly, I'm sure the teacher was like, I told you to do something. You just need to listen.
Right.
Right. And that's another thing, right, to have to think about. How do you navigate? Because it's not just in a teacher classroom situation that happens, right? But as a child, it's more, I guess it's more enforceable and stuff like that, because, that's a young child. They don't, you're thought not to really have a voice, but the fact is that happens all the time. There are just certain settings, right? Without even saying it, your voice is not welcome.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm really, really adamant about, breaking that generational curse of those words. You're to be seen and not heard, and you're to be, all the stuff that we grew up already diminishing our lights and our voices before we even have an opinion about what we think or feel or whatever. Our choice has been taken away from us since day one. And that's something that I'm very, very conscious of. And I try to, because it happens so much on a daily basis,
right,
especially in the elementary arena, like of children, their voices are literally stripped from them daily. Sit down, stop that, don't do this, stop talking like that, stop going to that, don't look to the left, don't look to the left, don't look to the right, don't look, whoo, whoo. And I'm like, well, what can they do?
I know we just started talking about this as of Thursday, but I'm just curious. If you haven't, I'd even make it a suggestion. Doesn't mean they would care, but sharing your philosophy with that teacher.
Mm-hmm.
It's an opportunity for others to take a moment, if they're willing to do so, to sit back and go, never thought about that. Like, this is what we practice at home. Now, I'm not saying she needs to be disrespectful like that. I'm not okay with. You tell her to do something, she should do it. However, I just want you to know that I encourage, and I'm raising her, right, to use her voice. And I think we have a responsibility as well in helping people to see when they're muting us.
Yeah,
I love that, and I think it gives the the person in the authoritative position an opportunity too to take a step back and go, well, maybe it's almost like
That's how things change.
yeah, take a step back and ask instead of assuming. You know what I'm saying? Ask.
So their upbringing, you know,
Like
her
they're bringing all of that to the classroom.
absolutely. Callie's teacher, you know, by nature, she's an older woman, and she has that like grandma nurturing. You know, she's definitely like Bible Belt. You know, she's definitely like, you know, and on top of it, she's Black. So she already comes into there like, I got a handful of y'all in here. Y'all gonna act right. Y'all, the Black ones in here. Y'all gonna act right. So she already comes with that auntie and everything that comes in that bag. She comes with that to the Black or minority students, because she's like, we're in preschool and pre-K and kindergarten at this school, right? However, she is in education and has been in education for over 40 years. So she's like, I know what has happened to people leaving preschool with a bad reputation. It carries with you all the way through elementary school and high school, especially if you're in the same system. You know, she's like nipping it in the bud at you know, in kindergarten. You ain't gonna be acting like this. Not on my watch.
And I'm gonna just keep it a whole but hope she ain't watching. You ain't gonna be able to tell her nothing. However, it's a lesson, you know, it's a lesson for all. And what I think is happening, my apologies, Nikki. I'll just say this real quick. What's happening is that it is changing. It is changing because parents are really acknowledging their children's voice. We see a lot of it, you know, with the non-binary conversations. We're seeing a lot of it as people are becoming more comfortable and sharing who they are, and now that's it. They're changing. The paradigm shift is happening.
I love it.
You know, as you know, a lot of the things that we grew up in, they're shifting. Like Callie's gonna have a very different high school experience than like my son having, who's only 10 years older than her.
Than we had.
Exactly. I still think it's an opportunity for people in the authoritative positions, whether it's school, whether it's work. Absolutely. I said, you know, to bring part of their training, to bring in like a life coach like Lachelle, or to bring in so people can see different options, because it starts at the top. Truly, I believe, because Callie's teacher, yeah, you know, we know where she comes from. We know that auntie. We know her. I believe if she was given an option from the people that are in charge to show a different way. But I have a teacher that just hit me up and said the problem is also that the teachers are being held to such a ridiculous standard that they get in trouble if the children do anything but achieve the end results. And that's why I think it's very pertinent for the people at the top to pause for a minute. Absolutely. And do something different to continue to train.
I 100. And I think I agree with you in that, because, you know, I will burn somebody down over my child, right? And so I have definitely been up there with ideas and different thoughts processes and many a teens, you know, to this school, because we're in the South, and that alone comes with a bunch of different narratives and ideals, right? But the thing about this particular school is it's very progressive. The owners are family looks like mine. And so it is very, you know, progressive in that way. So they're open to understanding other thoughts. Now that's one, because if you're not even open to it, you know, you have people that are in the South that's like, this is how we are. This is how it's always been. You just
people in New York like that.
Yeah. But I'm like, you just stay in the line. And when you're done with this, then you can figure out who you are after you've conformed this way for your whole elementary, high school career of life. Now at 19, at 18, now you're like, oh, go be yourself. Well, what is it? What
Right.
is it?
Can you give me myself back and I will take it with me and go?
Exactly.
Well, who am I? You've been telling me what to do.
What you do, sit down, what you doing, what your color, how,
Yeah, and if you're not a child that is getting a different narrative, you will have so. That's why we have so many kids that can't get out of the rut. They go to JCs and then they stay in like the high school kind of realm because they need people to really walk through the next steps instead of having their own voice, their own thoughts, their own things. And that is a problem. And it starts from elementary, preschool, day one. Like these kids are very smart. These kids are very advanced. They know what they're doing. In Callie's class, them kids, an incident happened at her school, and guess who told me exactly what happened? Them kids.
Right.
Okay. Word for word.
I do think that young people and even grown-ups who have been subjected to conforming, right, and have sort of swallowed it whole, I think it is going to be easier for them to find their way to themselves because so many people around them are more authentically themselves now, right? Yeah. Before it was like you're the standout person if you're trying to just be you, because almost everyone was conforming. Now there's still a lot of people conforming, but there's almost, I would dare to say, almost equally as many people to see as examples or sit in a class next to, or to see it role modeled more regularly. So I think that for the people who do sort of have to figure out how to start coloring outside the lines, that our society now is making it's a little bit easier to get there because the pressure is off a little bit, and there are people just coloring off the page. They out the room. Forget the book.
Creating options for themselves because people are tired. People don't want. They don't want to do that. They don't want. You have a lot of that right now. That's why you have so many people quitting their jobs and stuff.
Yeah. And like Nikki said something earlier, and we're about to wrap up soon. When Nikki said something earlier that resonated with me. Yeah, Crystal calls me the cliff jumper, and I am the cliff jumper. And when it comes to my occupation and talent and all that stuff, I would do this. But what Nikki was saying, it was something she did color outside the lines, and something she did stay in line. I did stay in line when it came to behavior. You know what I'm saying? Like when it came to behavior stuff. I did want to be the goody girl and didn't want to, step out. When it came to my grandma telling me to uncross my legs in church, I kept them crossed. I did that. But when it came to occupation, but I can say, Shelly, when you talk about people being role models and keeping things, I know it is making me emotional. Shawnee was the one that made me realize that when this shit was happening in 2020, that it was not cute anymore. And the fact that she wasn't even being bold. She was just being who she is and was saying, I'm not going to stand for this anymore. It was her being that role model millennial that made me go, I know, millennial / close to Generation X, made me comfortable to color outside the lines and not accept things that I accepted my entire life. So I agree with you, Lachelle, when you talk about how now in this day and time, watching people have their own voices and being that role model, it gives people comfortable to be able to do that. Because you made me, you and I have had this conversation. You made me. I remember when you looked at me, you said, Nikki, it's time. And that's when we did that show, the year we woke up.
Yeah.
The year we all woke up, because I had to wake the hell up. And now there are people in my life that are uncomfortable because I don't sit in that same box. That
better them than you. Better them than you.
I'm really grateful of my upbringing. I know that I am like a dime a dozen that come with parents that really teach this. My mother was breaking rules all the time from us being like, super, super church folk that, come from the era of like, you cannot wear pants. How dare you wear nail polish or lipstick? My mother used to walk in there with bright red lipstick and say something.
That's
to me.
First Lady.
Say something to me, okay? I never saw people wear pants, and my mother wore pants, and she's like, it doesn't make me a man because I got on pants. You know what I'm saying? Like, she always tests the waters. So like, when that was just something that I always saw. So I always walked in that. But I am it's clear to know that that's not normal. I didn't know that it wasn't normal until I was in obviously schools and other things where they want you to conform and do all this stuff. So I'm just like super grateful for my upbringing, and I know that that I personally have been placed in situations or in groups or in rooms or in environments to be that example for people, because it is not normal,
Right.
Especially Black women, who are in high places, to say, actually, we're not going to do it this way. We're going to do it this way. Actually, we are going to have a voice about this. Actually, we are going to actually.
We still have a long way to go.
I mean, sure.
We definitely do. I'll tell you though, all week Jada's so sick of me. I have been quoting Angel Reese. Every little thing I see, and all I'm thinking is, baby, just don't go too far. But I am loving everything. I said the Texas and everything. I mean, we have to show up authentically.
Yes.
And we have to push ourselves to be our authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to encourage others to do the same.
We do.
I think that the biggest thing as we wrap this in color inside the lines, and color. If you feel like you're someone that color inside the lines, recognize that you're using your own color. Recognize that you are outside the lines. You are different because you are using your own color, because your color don't look like her color. Your brick red, my brick red don't look like Crystal's brick red, because I might bear down a little too hard. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Using your own color. I think the people who feel like they are living outside the lines, continue to have your voice and roll with it. And I think the biggest thing where it comes down to what Lachelle said on that Thursday, and see, Renee said it, the safest place to be is to know who you are. And I think that's the biggest thing that we take from today as we decide some things we may want to be inside the lines, but know that it's our own color. We may want to jump outside the lines. No, it's your own volition. But the biggest thing is knowing who you are. Absolutely. And I feel like
that out at all costs.
Yeah, knowing
whole word. I like that.
Knowing who you are. It's been a great Saturday. We could talk about this forever. One of the biggest blessing about this show is that we come together every Saturday to support each other, all of us, the viewers, in knowing who you are.
Right. This is a safe place because of that. That's all we're here to do, is help us each figure out who we are.
Who we are. Mm-hmm. And I put out to you during this holy weekend, Happy Easter. I know I got some of my Jewish ladies watching. Hope you had a great
Happy Passover. That's right.
But continue to go into this week and today and continuing discovering and standing in who you are. Have a great Saturday, everybody.
I love y'all.
I love y'all.
More.
All in our individual colors today, outside the box. Have a beautiful weekend. Have a great weekend. And we'll talk to y'all next week. Bye.
Who's first? Ladies. Who's first? Ladies. Who's first? Ladies. What time is it? Time for the ladies. what you want. Unbossed, speak what you want. Unbossed. And we're up first. Unapologetically great. Unapologetically great. Unapologetically great. And we're up first. Yes, ladies. That's dope. Yes, ladies. That's dope. Yes, ladies. That's dope. And we're up first. It's time for the ladies. Ladies. It's the ladies first Chit-Chat crew. Time for the ladies. It's the ladies first Chit-Chat crew. One time for the ladies in the house. Two time make the people scream and shout. Lachelle, Chandra, Crystal with Nikki on boss and Nikki. L-A-D-I-E-S, and we're up first. L-A-D-I-E-S, and we're up first.
Bye, y'all. See you later. Oh, look who it is. Kelly G. Y'all have a great Saturday.
Bye, everybody.